What's going on, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to another episode of Caffeinate. Today, for November the 27th of 2018, my name is Samuel Adams, and welcome to today's show. Today, for those video viewers slash live stream watchers, you might notice I have a little bit better lighting. That's because I finally bought a ring light. It was $17 on Amazon, and yes, I did make that deep investment. But to those that are brand new to the show, welcome on in, and this is a daily gaming news podcast where I bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry and let you guys know what is going on in one tight, neat little package for you to enjoy whenever you do choose to enjoy it. Now, the show is live on twitch.tv/SamuelAdamsLive right now. On top of that, it's also available via youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia and on anchor.fm/SamuelAdams, which does send it out to a ton of your favorite podcasting sources. If you did want to check it out there, to Roy in the chat and anyone else that is joining at the beginning of the show, welcome on in, and I'm glad to see you today. But what are we going to be talking about today? Bethesda faces possible class action lawsuit over Fallout 76. Let that one sink in. We'll talk about that some more. Bethesda has also apologized for lack of Fallout 76 communication and has detailed changes. Elgato has a brand new cam link that is going to be bringing you streamers in 4K. Beautiful, crisp, delicious 4K. On top of that, the FTC chairman has pledged to investigate video game loot boxes. Fortnite has 200 million players. Mother of God. Fortnite has also a new update that does allow you to gift specific skins. On top of that, Reddit Online is out right now for some players, and it does have a Battle Royale mode. December's Xbox games with gold are very unimpressive, and the creator of SpongeBob SquarePants has passed away at the age of 57. We will close out the show with that. But to everybody joining me to Blow Pro with the beautiful emote in the chat, which you can get by subscribing over on twitch.tv/SamuelAdamsLive, I appreciate you repping my little Fallout-esque face. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's show. Bethesda is facing a possible class action lawsuit over Fallout 76. The tale of Fallout 76 has been a strange one since its first reveal at E3. Even at the time, it seems Bethesda knew that fans would be uneasy with the new take on Fallout by how often they couched introductions of the game with assurance that it was still Fallout at its heart. One reaction Bethesda probably did not see coming, however, is the idea that a class action lawsuit over the game's buggy nature and Bethesda's reticence to provide refunds. You should be doing that. The law firm Migliaccio and Rathod, LLP, sure, let's go ahead and go with that, is currently investigating and soliciting clients for a possible class action lawsuit against Bethesda over Fallout 76. According to the firm's class action page, they're hoping to represent players who bought the game and were unhappy with the quality level of the product from a technical perspective. More to the point, they are alleging that Bethesda is refusing refunds on the product. Quote, while minor bugs and glitches are expected with the release of most new games, Fallout 76 launched with a 56GB patch that has proven to be a starting point for the game's problems, the firm writes on the suit solicitation page. Gamers who have tried to receive a refund because of the game's myriad glitches has been unable to do so since they downloaded the game, leaving them to deal with an unplayable experience until patches bring it back to a playable state. There have been a number of reports on Reddit about Bethesda refusing refunds for the game on PC. It is not clear if this is a blanket policy. Bethesda chose not to release Fallout 76 on Steam, which has a 2 hours or 2 weeks return policy on games, opting instead of release only on their Bethesda launcher. Bethesda's own return policy allows for returns of unopened physical items, but zero exceptions for any games bought digitally unless mandated by law, like in Europe. Class action lawsuits over video games is not a new concept. In 2013, firm Robbins, Geller, Rudman, and Dowd LLP filed a suit against EA, alleging that the company made false statements about Battlefield 4 and the bugginess of the game affected its sales. That was a little different because it had more to do with the effect those actions had on shareholder value. In that case, the judge sided with EA. Bethesda has apologized for the radio silence and lack of communication, which does bring us in to our second story of the day, which kind of ties into the first. Bethesda Game Studios knows many Fallout 76 fans are frustrated about the game's current state, and it's apologizing for the lack of communication about fixes and updates. Quote, we didn't want you to think the silence meant nothing was happening, the team said in a Reddit post on Tuesday. We're sorry and understand this was not the right approach, and we will work to make a better bridge between you and the dev team at BGS. Fallout 76 is Bethesda Game Studios' first multiplayer title. It launched on November the 14th to mixed reviews, with many critics panning its technical issues. Variety's own reviewer, Sarah Elsom, called it an impersonal universe bereft of color that mingles many disconnected elements to create one shoddy, vague whole. Mother of God, what a review that one was. Nailed it. Bethesda is listening to all of the feedback, it said, and it detailed a number of upcoming changes. Players' stash limits are increasing from 400 to 600 in the next patch, which is scheduled for December the 4th. Bosses will drop more loot depending on difficulty and level. Players who are over-encumbered can respawn at the nearest discovered map marker. Previously, they were forced to respawn at Vault 76. That's a terrible mechanic. Plus, Bethesda said it's addressing an issue that caused players to get stuck inside power armor. The December the 4th update also includes a variety of performance and stability improvements, balance changes, and bug fixes, and there are more updates to come, with the next one being on December the 11th, about a week apart. So, man, Fallout 76, what a story this one is shaping up to be, because as we all know, Fallout 76 is one of those games where it truly should have been delayed by a while until they figured out exactly what they were doing on the back end when it comes to the multiplayer kind of server maintenance and overall quality of the gaming experience. Overall, this is something that, number one, I don't believe is going to result in a successful lawsuit. I think that when it comes down to it, this kind of refund should be given from retailers, but when it comes to Bethesda, I think they can kind of make their own policies, and so I don't know if this is ever going to actually result in something that comes out as a positive for the consumer that does want to get their money back. To those that are wanting refunds, I apologize, I just don't think it's going to be happening. With that being said, I think there is still a lot to talk about here, because obviously fans aren't happy with the way that things have been going, and so some action should be taken, and I think that Bethesda is actively trying to make the game better. I don't think it's being abandoned. I think that with the lead-in before the game even launched, that there would be a ton of issues with the game at launch. They knew this was going to happen, and I think internally they have been preparing for this kind of thing. Now, as we talked about yesterday, the game has dropped in price to about $35, which is mind-bogglingly low for a game that is literally less than 2 weeks old. Literally, it came out on the 14th. Tomorrow is the 28th. That is less than 2 weeks old. It is down to almost half of the price. So when you have that kind of situation, I would guess that Bethesda is more or less writing this one off as a loss until they do put the elements forward to make it into a better style of game. And so we will see what happens. Now, BlowPro in the chat says, yet another gaming behemoth taking its customers for granted. I don't think that's really what's happening here. I think that there was a good idea within Fallout 76, because there is such an in-depth, intricate world and universe behind Fallout 76 that does make it such a good quality experience whenever you dig past all of the tons and tons of terrible technical issues. I think there is still a good game there. But when it comes down to it, there is a world that has very little soul to it. It feels very empty whenever it comes down to it, of what I understand. There's a lot to do, but it's just one of those things where it's a lot of stuff that you may or may not actually want. It's a complicated situation with Fallout 76. So, as always, I hope that the fans of Fallout and the developers behind the scenes on Fallout 76 both begin to move in the right direction, and that people do end up enjoying this game at some point. But at this point, I don't see it coming back from this. I mean, really, this is one of those things where it'll be the fun experiment that really did flop on its face whenever we're looking back in the halls of gaming history. But as far as the lack of communication goes, yes, absolutely terrible when it comes to talking about what has been going on. I think that really, I agree with BlowPro in that this is a bad way to treat your fans that have been very excited about Fallout 76, only to, in the midst of their singings of John Denver, be completely and totally destroyed morally and ethically. So, we'll see what happens with Fallout 76. But as of right now, not looking too good on the home front over there. However, December 4th brings yet another new update, which is just a couple of days away. And on top of that, December the 11th, even more coming down the pipe. So we will see what happens. And if people do end up coming back and checking out what Fallout 76 has to offer. At the right price point, this could be a big deal for the holiday season. This could be absolutely one of the big sellers if they do end up fixing the game in a very quick way. You don't have time to mess around with this. Like, you literally, you gotta move, you know, you have a very brief window of opportunity here to really try and make this right. But again, a lot of bad stuff going on lately in terms of PR. You've got, as we have mentioned in the chat, the Diablo Immortal kind of situation on Blizzard's end, and then on top of that, you have the Fallout 76 end of Bethesda Games. Ooh, I would not want to be on that PR team without a doubt, either of them in fact. However, for those that are interested in creating some content, you might want to hang off before you buy that new Elgato cam link, because there is a brand new Elgato product that I say is a pretty good purchase. Elgato's newest cam link will let live streamers turn their DSLR or GoPro into a 4K webcam. Pretty good little piece of technology, and in fact, I use the 1080p version of the cam link to make this camera work with OBS, and man, is it a good camera that I'm very satisfied with. But game capture and streaming hardware company Elgato announced a new gadget today that can turn any existing DSLR camera, action cam, or standard video camcorder into a 4K webcam. The device, an upgraded USB dongle called CamLink 4K, acts as an intermediary between Elgato's software on your laptop or desktop and the camera itself. It's a 4K version of its existing CamLink dongle. For aspiring creators on Twitch and YouTube, this product promises to significantly upgrade live streaming video quality without requiring you to purchase an expensive webcam. But you do have to, buy the new expensive camera. I will point that out. But the CamLink 4K takes HDMI input from a camera and translates it into video at up to 4K at 30 FPS or 1080p at 60 frames per second. Elgato says the device supports Discord, OBS Studio, and Skype, as well as cameras from Canon, GoPro, Nikon, Sony, and Panasonic. And there's a full list of supported cameras and videos giving you an example of the quality that you'll get from each individual camera. But the device is on sale from Elgato parent company's Corsair website for $129.95, and it should be up on Amazon very shortly. Now, this is a really cool piece of technology. And in the chat, I do have the mention that you can upload in 4K now, Sam. If I did buy one of these, I could, technically, because my webcam is 4K. It's a Sony AX33 4K Handycam, and it's a fantastic camera. I'm a big fan of it. However, I like the smoothness of the 60 frames per second, and so for me to upgrade would be totally pointless because the cam link that's out now can do 1080p 60 frames per second. So, also, something I was going to tweet about earlier, but I didn't want to rain on everybody's parade. For the majority of people that are not partnered with Twitch or with any other kind of real, big live streaming service, you can't really downgrade the quality on the viewer's end. So for instance, if I'm streaming on Twitch right now in 720p, 60 frames per second, which I am, there is no option for you to go down to 144p, 240p, 360p, etc. You are stuck at whatever I choose to stream at. Now that being said, 4K on a 720p output still looks good. Don't get me wrong, it's a crisp image, but it's still 720p. So for those to get the full experience out of the 4K, it's one of those things where this is mainly for those that are trying to get the best of the best, maybe before they've achieved all of their streaming glory, or for those that want to get a new, output for their camera and they happen to be one of those higher tiered streamers that are partnered or have been partnered for a long time. It depends on your situation, essentially, if this is going to be a good buy for you. Now, I will say when it comes to YouTube content, this is going to be glorious for a ton of people because 4K content, you can upload that if you just started on YouTube today. I love a good piece of 4K content. Now for me, I'm building a computer specifically to use 1080p footage and eventually 4K if I do upgrade to that at some point in the future, but what a lot of people don't realize is that to capture 4K footage, regardless of whether or not it's gameplay or you talking into a camera, whatever it might be, that takes a lot of processing power to even manage that kind of thing. So a lot of people are not prepared to get in on this new technology because they don't have a computer to handle it. If I try to stream in 4K right now via the small computer that I have, which is basically a minimalist PC streaming build, I would be unable to do that and my entire streaming PC would freeze up. I do not have that kind of power, and I'm running about a 7700 processor. It's just not like that. So, a lot of people need to upgrade their PCs before they take advantage of this new CamLink 4K, or even the new HD Pro 4K, whatever it's called, the capture card from them that can do 4K gaming footage. With all that being said, if you did want to future-proof your setup, I would recommend getting this. However, I would wait about 2 to 3 years, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, and then you can get that 4K footage in 60 frames per second if I did have to guess, which my camera is not even capable of yet, but I know a lot of GoPros are right now. So, you can weigh all of your options here. At the end of the day, if you're just starting out streaming, the good old Logitech C920 is like $45. Real cheap, good stuff, if you did want to get that. However, moving back to the gaming news, the Federal Trade Commission chairman pledges to investigate game loot boxes. This could be a big deal. Federal Trade Commission Chairman Joseph Simmons on Tuesday said he would investigate video game loot boxes to ensure that children are being protected and parents are educated on the matter. Simmons testified Tuesday before the Senate Commerce Subcommittee on Consumer Protection, Product Safety, Insurance, and Data Security about the commission's work. Following his testimony, a number of senators asked Simmons questions on an array of topics. Senator Maggie Hassan, who brought up the issue of loot boxes in video games earlier this year, asked the FTC to launch an investigation, and Simmons confirmed that he would. The request comes about 9 months after Hassan sent a letter to the Entertainment Software Ratings Board asking for the group to review the ratings process as it relates to loot boxes, examine the marketing of loot boxes to children, and put together best practices for developers around the toxic form of microtransactions. The senator also asked the board to conduct a study that further delves into the reach and impact of loot boxes in games. At the time, she said if they didn't take sufficient action, she would ask the FTC to get involved. During Tuesday's exchange, Hassan noted that she believed the problem of loot boxes, which are sold for real cash in some games and packed with in-game mystery items, continues to grow. Quote, earlier this year, the confirmation hearing for most of you, I discussed the possibility of the FTC examining the issue of children in the video game space, she said. Specifically, we discussed loot boxes, which allow in-game purchases and real-world currency for surprise winnings, and most of you agreed this is an area that could use additional oversight by the FTC. So, more of this goes on, but essentially you get the gist of the story. Right now, there is a deep investigation that is beginning into video game loot boxes, which is something we've talked about since this podcast began back in, I guess, late February, early March, something along those lines. We've been talking about this for a very long time. Now, in the chat, Roy says the less loot boxes, the better. To which I somewhat agree. I believe that loot boxes, if handled correctly, can be an engaging and enticing part of the game. And again, as I've been saying for the past couple of episodes of Caffeinate, as we've talked about this in-game microtransaction balance, you have to be able to purchase something if you do want to purchase it for a reasonable price, but at the same time balance it with in-game earnability. And again, this is all my opinion, but if I can earn something within an hour, or I can choose to spend $2 to $3 on it, that seems to me, in my mind, to be a pretty fair trade. Now, a lot of people are going with the more traditional route, where a game should be complete once you buy it and pay $60 for it, of which I totally agree. However, then you have games like Battlefield 5, for instance, which are $60 out of the gate, but with all the additional DLC that is coming down the pipe being released for free. So that presents kind of this new issue of, do you take the free DLC and then buy some microtransactions to show the developers that you do care and that you are appreciative of the new updates that are coming out? Is that enough to make up the difference between selling DLC packs and just having microtransactions in your game that is 100% for free? That was a weird way to say that, but you know what I'm saying. So, again, a lot of different balances here. Again, in the chat, you know, if it's just cosmetics and nothing else that affects gameplay, that's fine. For instance, Overwatch versus something like Launch Day Star Wars Battlefront 2. Those are two totally different entities. You know, that's one of those things where it makes a little bit of a difference. Again, a lot to discuss here, but good that there is a discussion around the entire issue, because I 150% agree that kids are being taken advantage of in this situation. Parents are being taken advantage of in this situation. Those that are not educated on the issues don't understand the amount of money that can be spent in a game like Fortnite, in a game like Overwatch. Perhaps Fortnite wasn't the best example because there's no random element to that. But in a game like Overwatch, in a game like, I'm trying to think of another one, any of the Call of Duty games, such as World War II, I believe there are now microtransactions in Black Ops 4. A lot of games do take advantage of this kind of thing. So we need to think of the children, and we do need to have a discussion around this specific issue. But we'll see if this does amount to anything. And I would say this woman, she looks like she wants to speak to the manager. So I'm guessing we're going to see some action on this one. We'll see what happens with that. But, you know, moving on to Fortnite, which now boasts over 200 million registered players. Fortnite is a very popular game. You may know this already, but its player base now has hit another huge milestone: 200 million people. 200 million people. That number from Bloomberg counts the total number of Fortnite accounts registered to date rather than an active player total. Still, it is up 60% from the last registered account total we got of 125 million people back in June. For active player totals, the most recent we got was in August when Fortnite had 78.3 million active players, its largest monthly amount at that point. All of which means that if Fortnite's registered player base was a country, it would be the joint 6th most populous in the world, behind only China, India, the US, Indonesia, and Brazil. With 6 days left of Fortnite's Season 6, all eyes are on the horizon, literally, as a wintry storm cloud is poised to bring Christmas to Battle Royale Island. That is absolutely insane. According to BlowPro in the chat, that's more than the number of people who voted in the last election. I don't have the validity of that statement, but I'm willing to believe it. Again, 200 million people is a mind-boggling amount of people. And again, 125 million people was confirmed back in June. Considering how much it grew over the summer, I would say that's not beyond reason. I think that that's a pretty awesome figure to have. And I say awesome because that brings more people into the gaming world and gives Epic more money and Epic more options when it comes to how they want to make money and how they want to move forward. Fortnite isn't stopping. Fortnite is not going anywhere. But what Epic makes after Fortnite, if anything, who really knows at this point, is fueled by this. And with more people coming into the industry, it's generating more discussion around the future of gaming as a whole. And so then these people are going to be branching out, trying new things. Even if it is going from Fortnite to Call of Duty, and from Call of Duty to Battlefield, and from Battlefield to Resident Evil 2 Remake, whatever it might be, you are getting more people into the industry and more people are being able to experience what these developers are leaving out there for you to enjoy. Again, that's just my take on that. You very well could interpret this as tons of kids are playing it on Xbox, but I digress. We'll see what happens with this as Fortnite continues to grow beyond anything anybody ever imagined. But as Season 7 does approach, you could be getting some snow. And I will tell you when that's going to be coming on the weather update here on Caffeinate whenever the new update does roll out. Speaking of new updates rolling out, Fortnite 6.31 update adds gifting to Battle Royale for a limited time. Fortnite players can purchase gifts from their buddies with tomorrow's 6.31 update. Not from, but for. Players will finally be able to send gifts in Fortnite Battle Royale once 6.31 update drops, but only for a limited time. Epic says the initial gifting period will last 1 week after the release of the update. If you are in the spirit of giving, you'd better do it fast. When players visit the item shop and choose an item to purchase, they will be presented with an additional buy as a gift option. Selecting this option allows players to choose which friends to send the gift to. A custom message can be added if they wish. The next time the friend logs into the game, they will receive the gift box with the item. The studio outlined important information on gifting, and they have posted it below here, and there's a screenshot of how it actually does work. Looks good to me. Fortnite gifting. Number 1, make sure you have multi-factor authentication enabled on your account. Number 2, you must have been friends with somebody for at least 48 hours before you can send a gift to them. Number 3, you will only be able to gift 3 items within a 24-hour period. Any gifts that are purchased are not refundable. You can only gift an item that is currently available in the item shop. Do you want to receive any gifts or not? You can disable receiving gifts under the account settings in the game. And again, this does only last for 1 week whenever the update does drop on November the 28th. Now, if I had to guess, I would say this is setting you up for what is going to be a Christmas special where you can send gifts in Fortnite around the holiday season, which makes perfect sense to me. So if you want to jump in and buy some hot, sweet skins for your best friends, then by all means you can do that with some of your hard-earned V-Bucks as you complete those weekly challenges. But overall, good little idea here, just another way to generate money. It's kind of like sub-gifting on Twitch where you can go ahead and gift out 10 subs to the community or whatever you might want to do. You can support in that way, and Epic will gladly take your money in a similar fashion if you do so choose to give it to them. But overall, if you want to dive in and give your friends some skins, then get on it, buddy, because you only have a week to do so before they inevitably release this around the holiday season. Imagine not doing this. Do you know the money you are leaving on the table as friends get an Xbox under the tree for the holiday season and then their friends buy them skins? Easy. Good deal there. But speaking of games that are going to be hot for the holiday season, Red Dead Redemption 2 number 1 is a fantastic game. I started playing it again this morning. Absolute masterpiece. But Red Dead Online's Battle Royale mode, that's right, you heard me correctly, just gives you bows and knives. No 6-shooters for you or anyone on PC at the moment. Haha, burn. The first phase of the Red Dead Online beta kicks off today with the console launch, turning Red Dead Redemption 2's map into a crime-infested playground. Ahead of the beta's launch, a list of activities has been ferreted out and posted on Twitter by Illogical Mods. The list includes various jobs, races, and yes, a Battle Royale mode. And in the chat, BlowPro says Red Dead Redemption Battle Royale actually sounds really awesome. Abso-freaking-lutely, I'm loving the way this is sounding. It's called Make It Count. and it pits players against each other in a shrinking area until one of them is the last man standing. It's not an entirely conventional battle royale, however, as weapons are restricted to bows or knives depending on where you're fighting. At the St. Denis Plantation and Tall Trees, you'll have the bow, while at the Stillwater Creek and Strawberry versions only give you throwing knives. A cowboy battle royale with no revolvers sounds bold. I quite like it though, says the author, and also says me. In concept anyway, bows and throwing knives are silent weapons, so even more emphasis is being put on stealth than usual. And it's undoubtedly going to make me a paranoid mess every time I hear a bird chirping or some leaves rustling. Elsewhere, there are a few bounty jobs, all involving a character known as Horley. In one, Horley tasks players with hunting down a con man and outlaw who's on behalf of a police chief. In another, players can avenge the deaths of a woman's husband, and Horley also introduces players to a horse chief, Clay Davies, who will apparently educate prospective outlaws on the ins and outs of horse rustling trade. So, if you want to shoot things, there are plenty of free-for-all shootouts and team battles over territory. Unfortunately, there are also loads and loads of races. I quite enjoy the races of GTA Online, at least the very violent ones or the very weird ones, but I'm not really convinced, says the author, that racing horses will be much fun. Now, if we can race horses inside a complicated network of tubes suspended in the sky, then we've got something going on there. But this Battle Royale mode looks like a really good time. Now, whenever there was a giant round of leaks that made their rounds earlier in the year, we did know that a Battle Royale mode was going to be coming to Rockstar's next big hit. However, I didn't know if it was actually going to be added to the game after that leak. I thought that might be a concept, but now this actually sounds like a really good way to do stuff. Of course, a lot of people complain about the gimmicky control scheme of Red Dead Redemption, but I will say that with the Battle Royale mode taking this kind of turn, with it not being quite so focused on the run and gun action of the classic Wild West Clint Eastwood-esque kind of vibe, I think this could work out very, very well, and I love the throwing knives in Red Dead Redemption 2. Let me tell you about them real quick. Okay, so in Call of Duty, whenever you are using the throwing knives, they're literally from point A to point B. Hold on. If this is a throwing knife and I throw it directly at you, it literally comes right forward and it lands right there. Okay, there is no kind of arcing or anything like that. It is literally just point A to point B. With Red Dead Redemption 2, if you are throwing a throwing knife, Arthur will literally lean back and chunk that thing, and it will go in the exact same way you would throw it if you were trying to hit that specific location. So you got to arc it, kind of like this. You just got to go, you see what I'm saying? And then it'll come back and it'll stick in the wall. So, anyways, all that to say, I love the throwing knives in Red Dead Redemption 2, and I think they're going to be a fantastic addition to the lineup for the Battle Royale mode here. So we'll see what happens with the Battle Royale mode and also with Red Dead Online. I don't think it's going to be as fleshed out and as good as Grand Theft Auto Online. I think that there is much less you can do within the world of Red Dead as compared to Grand Theft Auto, because GTA is so out there and it is so, zany and insane that you can literally do anything and it totally goes. With Red Dead, the world is more grounded and more realistic, and I just don't know if it's going to work out that well. To those podcast listeners, I do apologize for my throwing knife antics, but you probably heard the eraser side. It hit the side of my room. I apologize. I really like throwing knives. But another thing I would like to throw a knife at is the December lineup for Xbox Games with Gold, because it is absolutely hot garbage, save for one game. Thanks to Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales, many of you are likely swimming in new games to play. Just don't forget to download your free Xbox games for the remainder of this month and set a reminder to get your free haul of titles in the month ahead. Xbox's next offering is decidedly retro, with the biggest games falling on the Xbox 360. If you want to take a stroll down memory lane, you can download Dragon Age 2 between December 1st and the 15th, and Mercenaries Playground of Destruction between 16th and the 31st of December. Both titles work on Xbox One via Xbox One backwards compatibility. Game Informer's Joe Juba, what a name, experienced Dragon Age 2 and says that he enjoyed it, but in his review says that it's a step back from Dragon Age Origins. The new battle system is fun, but not nearly as satisfying or rewarding as Origins. Since you don't have a main antagonist until the final hours, the story pales in comparison to the original. If you put those complaints aside and remove Dragon Age 2 from the impressive shadow of its predecessor, you'll find an engaging action/RPG experience that still retains BioWare's trademark clever dialogue, cool characters, and and detailed lore. And so if you did want to dive into those, you can have those, but Xbox One's free games offer up radically different experiences. From December 1st through the 15th, players can download Cube 2, a puzzle game in which you awaken on an alien world and must figure out the mysterious of a monolith to get home, but you'll need to manipulate the monolith's architecture using state-of-the-art gloves to see the secrets it does hide. Well, alright then. The month of free games concludes with Never Alone, a side-scrolling adventure that explores the culture of the people that are Inupiat. Sure. Juba also reviewed that one for Game Informer, saying the care with which the culture is represented is wonderful, and I love learning about its customs in history. I believe it's Inuit. No, it's not. Inupiat? Sure, why not? Eskimo. It's Eskimos. Whole bunch of little Eskimos. But that's probably racist. I don't know. It's 2018. Who really knows? However, the validity of this list is to be decided. Again, Roy says they're good games. I believe Mercenaries is the one that stands out here. A couple of the other games do stand out. No, it's not Inuit. It's like, where is it right now? It's, I-N with a squiggly, U-P-I-A-T. Inuit? Yeah. Anyways, moving on. If you do want to check out any of these games, again, they're all going to be available via the month of December if you do have Xbox Games with Gold. And don't forget to take advantage of Xbox Game Pass as well, which I heard was about $1 if you did want to pick it up for Black Friday. A good deal. One of the best deals in gaming. But again, the games do include Dragon Age 2. On top of that, Mercenaries. On top of that, Cube 2. And you also have Never Alone. So we'll see what happens, and again, all of these are going to be available via the month of December. And to close out today's show, a childhood icon of my own has passed away. SpongeBob SquarePants creator Stephen Hillenburg, dead at 57. There is no joy at the Krusty Krab. Stephen Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob SquarePants, died Monday after battling ALS. Stephen first revealed his ALS diagnosis in 2017. He is survived by his wife, Karen, like the robot, and his son, Clay. Nickelodeon called him a beloved friend and longtime creative partner to everyone at Nickelodeon, and our hearts go out to his entire family. Steve created SpongeBob in the late 90s, but he took a circuitous route to his TV and movie success. Hillenburg started out teaching marine biology in Orange County, but eventually combined that knowledge of ocean creatures with his artistic talent. He broke into TV as a director and writer on the Nickelodeon show Rocko's Modern Life, and eventually started creating his SpongeBob, which debuted in 1999. In addition to the TV series, Steve wrote both hit SpongeBob feature films. The first one grossed more than $150 million at the box office. Now, Variety first reported Hillenburg's death, and again, he was 57. Enjoy a Krabby Patty today in his name. And as the chat says, my childhood is slowly dying. What an individual, you know. Even in today's culture, SpongeBob remains one of those iconic entities where you do have memes around SpongeBob. You have just this global phenomenon that has really shaped the mindset of a lot of people in my generation. And so that's not something a lot of people can say, that you had that big of an influence on such a large group of people. So again, to those that are fans of SpongeBob, to those that are fans of Steven, he did a lot when it comes to cartoons overall, to Nickelodeon, and overall just really impacted a lot of people throughout his life. And I know that overall, it's sad whenever you see people pass away. Stan Lee, for instance, last week. I remember Tom Petty died a little bit, you know, separate from this group of people, but still, Tom Petty died last year. That was one that was really shocking to me. A ton of people pass away, but it's their work that they live through. It's what keeps them going, you know, like this guy, Stephen Hillenburg, is not dead, even if he is. You know, it's the physical form is gone, but what he stood for still maintains its value and continues on. And again, there never will be a cartoon quite like SpongeBob. And so, if you did want to go watch an episode in his name, then by all means, you know, to you, good sir, I salute. You have done very well. So, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants. SpongeBob SquarePants. But that wraps it up for today's episode of Caffeinate. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show, and if you did, be sure to drop me a like down below, and as we had yesterday, just drop me a like in the Twitch chat, because that's always a good time. But if you are brand new to the show, thank you for watching all the way through. If you made it all the way through the first episode you have watched, and you can always subscribe via youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia or on anchor.fm/SamuelAdams to keep up to date with all of the brand new episodes of the podcast, which is hosted live over on Twitch, 5 nights a week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time if you did want to check it out. But I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the night. I will talk to you soon, and peace.